Okay. See, we are going to, so in the last session, we discussed about auto scaling, right? How it works and all in the, I like part one session, right? Now we are going to discuss about auto scaling. It's the next implementation of that auto scaling. So how it is going, right? So you can create a launch configuration first and then auto scaling groups. Okay. Or else you can directly continue with the auto scaling groups, go on mute. Okay. You can create an auto scaling group. While creating the auto scaling group, in between, it is going to ask about the launch configuration. There you can create and add the launch configuration, right? If you already have a launch configuration created here itself, right? Launch configuration here itself you have created in the auto scaling group, you can select it. If you have not created it, you can create there only and select it, right? But first I want to need an AMI as well. Okay, I want to have a AMI, right? You can take a custom AMI. Okay, you can take a custom AMI, or else you can use any inbuilt AMI, right? For example, I want to take Red Hat. Okay, you can take it. But if you want to have, right, some predefined software installed already on that, right? Whenever my auto scaling, right, in the last session, I explained auto scaling group automatically launch your instances. Whenever my new instances are launched, I need to have some ready-made software, means my application deployment things, everything should be there automatically. Then what you have to do? First, you launch an instance, install whatever you require there. Okay, install whatever you require there. And then you, while launching this, you create an AMI, right? And in the launch configuration, you select that custom AMI, whatever you have selected, right? So that you can do. Okay, so I took an EC2 instance, which is of Amazon Linux type. Okay, this is the instance I have taken to create my custom AMI. So I took this instance, which is of Amazon Linux type, and here I install HTTPD server. Okay, so through this commands, I install HTTPD, systemctl enable HTTPD. I did that, and on top of that, I installed PHP. So why I install PHP is just to show the IP address of that. So I'm going to this path. So wherever I have installed HTTPD, right? So here I'm going to that path, right? Here I'm going to write this content there. Okay, I'm going to create index.php. One file I'm going to create, index.php file I'm going to create and put this code inside that. So for that, vi index.php. Click on I to enter into insert mode. Paste this content, save it. Okay, it may fail because with let me quit it first. So let me open with sudo. Sudo. Here I'm going to paste it. Save it. Now let me restart it once. Okay. Sudo service httpd restart. Okay. Now let me try to access it. So here it is a default page it was showing. Now instead of default page, it is showing this. You can see here somewhere here IP address server IP here in this variables. You can see here server name server ADDR it is showing, right? Server ADDR 172 here. So 172.3.1.2.3.70, right? 3.1.2.3.70 it is showing. So it is showing the IP address. So using this, right? Using this, I'm going to create a custom AMI. I'm going to launch a custom AMI. Go here, right? Image and templates, create AMI. Now I'm going to name it as my AMI, my Amazon Mission image. Just description you can write why you are creating for this, for demo purpose, for demo, right? You need to reboot. If you select this, the system, right, original instance will get stopped, create this image and then start it, right? So volume, what is the default volume size? It has to get like this. You can select the details and create an AMI. Done, right? I have a custom AMI. Now I'll name it as, just for identification, I'll name it as original instance. Okay, I'm going to name it as. Now what I'll do is, now I have a prerequisite. I want a custom AMI. So I can choose a Red Hat image. right? Auto scaling group will launch that instance as load balancer. If I keep it, it will load balance the load, but you don't know the proof whether it is really routing the traffic or not. Just for that proof, I took an instance, installed HTTPD PHP on that, added some PHP content there, which will show the IP address. So next time, through auto scaling, right? Whenever I do the load balancing and instances are launched through auto scaling, if a traffic is routed between the instances, you can see that. Okay. So now let's go to launch configuration. First, let's create the launch configuration. I'm going to launch configuration. So what is this launch configuration? Auto scaling group is going to launch instances for you. In the previous session, I explained, right? We'll give desired status true. Means always auto scaling group will make sure that 2 instances are running. If any one of them gets deleted, automatically it will create one more, right? So if the load is based on the conditions, whatever we add, if the load is high, right, it will create one more instance. So the new instance is how it has to be launched, right? Based on this configuration. So I'm going to, there are 2 ways. One is through template we can create. Template means there will be some ready-made things. Okay, you need to select it. Launch configuration, create with the launch configuration means you need to select everything. So I'm going to choose this create launch configuration. Name is my auto scaling launch configuration. My auto scale, any name you can take. I'm taking this. Which AMI you have to choose, right? So this is the AMI. So my AMI. You can choose any images there. I'm choosing as my image. Okay, my AMI I'm taking, right? Now instance type, which type of instance it has to launch, right? T2 micro means whenever my auto scaling group is going to launch new instances, what type of instance it has to choose. So I want to choose it as T2 micro, right? But based on your requirement, you can choose T2. So I'm going to select as T2 micro. So whenever my auto scaling group launches either 2 desired states, 2 desired instances, or if any one of them deletes, if it is going to create one more, or else when the load is high, it is going to create new instance, right? You can create, it is going to create the new instances with this AMI and with this instance type. And if you want to request for spot instances, means few of these instances need to be spot instances, right? I explained on demand, reserved, spot, right? You can include those also. So now I don't want this. If you want to enable monitoring, detailed, still I haven't discussed about CloudWatch monitoring. I'll explain at that time. You can use this. If you want to optimize your EBS volumes, you can use this, but I don't want those things and all. So if you go to advanced details, so these and all not required as of now, but if you want, means whenever AWS is going to launch a new instance, I want to execute some bootstrap using user data, you know, right? User data script, that script you can give here if you want. Okay, so whenever it launches a new instance, it is going to assign this, right? Next, assign only a public IP address to instances launched in a subnet, public IP to every instance. Subnet with auto assign public IP enabled. Okay, you leave this as these options. You don't know about this because still I haven't discussed about VPC. You don't know much. So for now, you just remember, you know, this user data. If you want, you can give this. Okay. So public IP address we want. Okay. Next, root volume means whenever AWS is going to launch, means auto scaling group is going to launch a new instance, that new instance should get a root volume with 8 GB of size. Okay. So, and the new instances needs a security group, right? So do you want to create a new security group for them? No, I don't want. I want to use an existing security group where all traffic is allowed, but in real time we don't use all traffic allowed, but just I'm using it here. So if you want to create a new security group for each instance whenever it is launched, you can select this, right? Means you can create it and assign to that. Okay, for all the new instances, this security group will be used. So you are going to create a new security group, assign it to the launch configuration. So whenever it is going to create a new instance, that will assign this security group to that, but I already have a security group. Instead of creating, I'm selecting this one. Okay. Next, key pair, which key pair it has to use. So you want to create a new key pair now and use it, right? Or else choose an existing key pair. So I already have a key pair. I'm using this key pair, right? So just how we launch an instance. Whenever we launch an instance, it needs a security group. If you already have a security group, you select that. If you want to create it, you will create and assign it to that. So PIM file also, if you have it, you choose it. If you want to create it, you create and select it. So using auto scaling groups, whenever it launches a new instances, that new instances is going to get this security group and this PIM file. Okay, key pair. So I created a launch configuration, right? Done. Launch configuration has been created. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to auto scaling groups. Auto scaling groups. So here, create auto scaling group. I'm going to click on this. So my auto scaling group, some name. Okay, you need to give a name. So here, two things are there. You can launch, means this auto scaling, you can create launch temp, you can create with the launch template or configuration. Template means, this launch template means there will be something predefined things. You just need to select few things. That's it. It will make your job easy. But as we are in the understanding level, we are knowing that let's go with the launch configuration. So we can check the each and every step. So launch configuration means it will be like a template. Everything will be there. You just need to put the values wherever you require, select the values. But here you need to do a lot of steps, a few steps extra. Let's, as we are in the understanding phase, let's go with the switch to launch configuration. Okay, I'm going to switch to launch configuration. Okay, now do we have a launch configuration? Yes, already we created a launch configuration. The previous step we created. If you have not created, you can click on this create launch configuration. It will open a new tab, create it. After that, refresh it, it will list here. You can select it. But we already created in the previous step itself. If you haven't created there, now you have to come and create it here. So we already created it here. So select this. Okay, select this. So it is going to show this. So this AMI security group, T2 type of instance, key pair, everything, right? Go to next step. Which VPC, which network you have to create? You don't know as of now. So leave this VPC as default. So you know VPC, you don't know, but availability zones. Still, we haven't discussed about VPCs, or you don't know about VPC. VPC is a network. So in that network, there will be some subnet. For example, I said about availability zones, right? Just imagine like these are like availability zones, but not exactly availability zone. Just think. So whenever my auto scaling group is going to launch an instances, on which subnets it has to create. For example, let me explain a little bit about this. So there is some network. This is a network. This network again divided into sub networks. So like availability zones, right? Not exactly availability zones. So this single thing is a network. For example, this is a floor. This floor is again divided into rooms, small rooms, right? So this is a VPC network. This is again divided into sub networks. So whenever my EC2 instance, whenever my auto scaling group is going to launch an instances, where it has to launch, on which subnets? I want it on 1A, 1B. You select 2, 3 subnets, right? Whatever you want. So next time, whenever auto scaling group launches an instances, so it is going to launch within these subnets only, but not this. So for example, I selected these two. So whenever it launches an instances, it is going to launch only on this subnets, but not on these two. Why? Because I have not selected in the auto scaling group creation. Okay, these 3 I selected. Okay, done. Right. So next step here it is showing, right? It is launch instance options. Next, do you want a load balancer or no load balancer? Right? Do you want a load balancer for this? Yes, exactly. I want. Why? Because I want to do load balancing between the instances, whatever my auto scaling group is launched. In few cases, in real time, you may not need load balancer. You just need to launch the instances. There might be Kafka, consumer, producer, some internal events will be happening. Based on that, it need to scale. I don't want to give access of my instances to the end user through load balancer. I don't want. So in such cases, when you don't want a load balancer, you need to select this. When you want, you already have a load balancer. For example, here, here you created a load balancer. Here you created a load balancer. So if you have already created, like how we created a launch configuration like this, if I go and create a load balancer. So I already have a load balancer. I can choose this attached to an existing load balancer. Means the instances which are going to be configured, right? So the instances which are going to be launched by auto scaling group, those will be attached to this load balancer. Choose from existing load balancer. If you don't have that, I haven't created a load balancer yet. Then you can select this option, attach to a new load balancer. So quickly create a basic load balancer to attach to your auto scaling group. So you can create a load balancer and attach to your auto scaling group. What will happen? So this load balancer will be attached to the auto scaling group. So all the instances which are launched by this auto scaling group will be attached here. So let me create a load balancer here. Okay. So I'm going to create a load balancer here. If you have already created, you can select this option, right, and choose from it. So we haven't created, I'm going to create it here. So this one, I don't want it for internal facing. I want internet facing, right? Application load balancer. This one is my LB, right? My load balancer. Okay. So everything with the same naming convention I'm going, and it need to route the traffic to what? Here we selected, in the previous step, we selected the instances need to be created in 3 subnets. Now the load balancer should be routing the traffic only to the 3 subnets. So as we are creating here, it automatically selected the same subnets, whatever we selected in the previous step. If you have created here with the means, if you have already created a load balancer separately, you need to select, cross check and create the load balancer in the to route the traffic to the exact subnets. Okay. So, but here it is auto selected. So as we are creating the load balancer here itself, it has selected the same availability zones automatically. Next, this, you know, right? What protocol and port number it has to use to access the load balancer listener, right? So then a target group. I don't have any target group. Now let's create one target group. Let's create one target group. When I'm creating a target group, we don't have any target group. If you have already created here a target group, right? You can select it here. You can select the target group here, but we haven't created. Let's create one. One thing you have to remember while creating the target group. Okay. See here, create a new target group. Okay. This one, that's it. Okay. Here, if you are creating, just you select create a target group name, give it here. Now, one thing, my TG, let me give it my TG. So if you have created from here, right? So what it will do, it will ask target group name. So let me show you my target group name. So whether it is a instances or IP addresses. So instances, right? So which it has to listen, right? These and all will health check details and all we will give. Okay, you can give, but here it is not asking. It is going to take by default, I guess, an instance target group with default setting will be created. It is going to create with default settings. So anyways, the default settings will be there. If you want, we can change it because it will appear in the target group list. We can change it, right? If you want to, later, if you want to do any changes, we can change it. But you remember here, these details, like I'm going to select an instance, this target group name, right? So from where it need to route the traffic, means the target is going to be the instances. It need to route the traffic with this protocol, right? So from load balancer to instances, it has to go with this. We know all these things, right? Health check details and all we are going to give. Next step, if we go, okay, for example, your TG. Okay. Next step, if we go, do you remember whatever the available instances were there, we used to select and then register them. So whenever we select this, for example, if you select this and click on this, include as pending below, it will come here. Health check is not yet done. So after doing the health check, once we create the target group, after health check is done, it will be in running state. Yes or no? Now, yeah, this we used to do when we use a normal load balancer. But as you are using auto scaling group, do you know what are going to be the instances? Is the instances ready here? Are the instances ready here? Yes or no, guys? No. Still our auto scaling group has not launched in any instances. So based on our configuration, it may create 2 instances. When the load is high, it may create 3rd instance. So we don't know that. So whenever you are using auto scaling, right, in the target groups, you should not select any instances. Without registering any instance, you need to create a target group. Like this, you have to create and then select it here. Then select it here. But I already, I'm just going with the default option. Default option here I'm selecting, right? So this till here. So is it clear, guys, everyone? So my load balancer has to listen with this port number And then this is my target group. Target group have no instances registered. It has created a default target group with the default option. But if you create here, you need to create without registering any instances. Remember that. The next thing we'll discuss in the next session. Join back. We'll continue from here. Okay. We'll continue from here with the next steps. You just